6 years ago, Pusha T defeated Drake in one of the most bizarre rap beefs in hip-hop history. A normal exchange of diss tracks that ended abruptly when Push published a photo of Drake in blackface and revealed the existence of his once-unclaimed child, Adonis, on The Story of Adidon. He easily beat him. Easy money. Drake's most recent collapse this past weekend versus Kendrick Lamar and his merry band of haters, Rick Ross, ASAP Rocky, Kendrick Lamar, Future, Metro Boomin, and The Weeknd, was a little closer, a lot more difficult, and the perfect subject for some highly nasty postmortem. Kendrick Lamar outperformed and outrapped Drake. Drake, on the other hand, made a sequence of mistakes, some understandable, some unfathomable, that gave Mr. Morale the advantage. I'll do my best to explain why Drake is so unpopular in the hip-hop community.
Toronto, if you love me, please get loud. I said, please get loud. I said, please get loud. Look at my city, I'm so proud.
Drake made the greatest, arguably inescapable, but nonetheless tragic blunder in this struggle by agreeing to his opponent's requirements without objection. He couldn't pass up the opportunity to be viewed as a badass and an underdog by battling multiple opponents at once. Still, Drake should not have fought a 20-on-1 match. The common belief that Drake had no choice but to address everyone at once is erroneous. He's Drake. He's the world's second biggest musician and the dominant rapper for the last decade and a half.
Our first guest is one of the biggest hip-hop stars in the world who was nominated for 11 Billboard Music Awards this Sunday. Please welcome the incredibly talented Drake.
As such, he was in a stronger position than anyone else to dictate terms to rappers with considerably smaller audiences, like Rick Ross and Rocky, and opponents who don't even rap, like Metro, The Weeknd, and therefore weren't in much of a position to compete in later stages anyway. Drake should have tactically ignored his secondary opponents and focused his insult following push-ups on Kendrick, who was clearly the final boss. His failure to do so resulted in him overextending on Family Matters, a fantastic song, but a terribly unfocused and ineffective diss track. This song was marketed as Drake's red button to eliminate Kendrick, but instead, he wasted dozens of bars and his coldest flow on the pop singer and fashion model. This was foolish.
You know, the other two guys that I'm constantly, up against, which is like Cole and Kendrick. I'm excited that the decade's about to turn and we're gonna see who can, who can go that extra stretch.
Know about these guys that go away 3, 4, 5 years, wanna chill out, all that shit, that's not me.
He didn't stop addressing Kendrick until The Heart Part 6 on Sunday evening. But then, it was only to rehash everything he'd already said about Kendrick, claims that we'll look into shortly. A couple of days earlier on Family Matters, while also appearing exhausted and forced into the humiliating position of rapping. Drake is not a name that you go and see on no sex offender list. So even then his attention was irreversibly divided. He needed to corner Kendrick faster and earlier.
I remember somebody asking me, or maybe it was you that was like, is Kendrick Lamar your biggest competition in this generation or whatever? Yeah. And I still when it comes to competition, I'm more worried about consistency. I'm more worried about bodies of work.
The extensive promotion of Family Matters was the most concerning hint of Drake's impending doom in this fight. The song was accompanied by a music video in which he destroys a variation of the van from the deluxe cover of Good Kid, Mad City, as well as an Instagram teaser of Drake imitating Kendrick on Take Care's Buried Alive interlude. This was an album-worthy premiere.
Kendrick, you ended him, man. Congratulations. There's no way he can come back from that. He's cooked.
Is he still breathing?
What? What?
Is he still breathing?
I guess physically, yeah, but you definitely won.
I'm dropping another song.
Kendrick, you don't have...
Of course, Kendrick, in probably the most devastating move in the history of rap beef, quickly stomped all over Family Matters with Meet the Grams. Kendrick predicted Family Matters, as demonstrated by the title and material of Meet the Grams, an open letter to Drake's kid, Drake's parents, and, in what is advertised as a reveal, Drake's shamefully unclaimed daughter. Family Matters was remarkable, but Meet the Grams was something different. The first two words of this song opened a portal into hell, Dear Adonis. In 6 minutes and 32 seconds, this song transformed the conflict from one of petty to existential magnitude. It was the type of song that made you recall exactly where you were, what you were doing, and what you were thinking when you first heard it. especially if you heard it right away. Drake certainly bet big on Family Matters. This was foolish, and he should feel stupid for charging so much. Drake pretended for weeks that he was ready to face Kendrick at the speed of social media, with 1,000 tricks in his sleeve. But when he was outflanked on Friday night, the boy froze. He could not adjust. He wouldn't last the weekend.
Boy, has the rap world been buzzing over the weekend. The internet on fire. Are you Team Drake or Team Kendrick Lamar? The feud is red hot, with both stars dropping several diss tracks over the weekend. Both stars gaining tens.
Drake's claims of insurmountable bias and stolen elections have led to a heated debate between the two rappers. On Family Matters, Drake accuses Kendrick of several untrue allegations, including beating his fiancée, cheating with white women, and impregnating his fiancée. This revelation is debilitating for Kendrick, as Drake is the worst messenger for these unverified details. Kendrick likely anticipated that Drake would lack the self-awareness to understand why this was the case, and he brazenly dared him to press his red button with the allegations. Drake's two big rap beef before Kendrick, the battle he won against Meek in 2015 and the battle he lost against Pusha T in 2018, both largely concerned lies and misdirection from Drake. Drake's credibility was over-leveraged, and Meet the Grams dropped only a few minutes after Family Matters, which stifled this angle. There is also a double standard between Kendrick's statements about Drake being a pedophile and having a secret daughter, and Drake's statements about Kendrick being a dog and an abuser. Kendrick doesn't have the same reputation for misdirection and lying in rap beef.
I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord, and it's probably A minor.
You mentioning A minor, but niggas gotta be sharp and tell the fans who was it. You thought you left D flat, D major.
Drake's imitating Meek Mill in Dream vs. Kendrick has not worked out very well for him. Pusha vaporizing Drake with facts was the exception, not the rule. The Story of Adidon set a somewhat warped ahistorical standard for Drake versus Kendrick. Drake appears to have internalized this exception and learned the wrong lessons from it. Drake most likely suspected that the novelty of his assertions about Kendrick gave him an advantage over Kendrick's more expected allegations about him. But he had it backward. Consider the aggressive statements these men are making about one another. Drake claims Kendrick is a philanderer and a woman beater whose prestigious status is based on disgusting, self-righteous lies. Kendrick claims Drake is a deadbeat and a stalker with Peter Pan syndrome who has a vampiric connection with street rappers and black music in general. Now, notice the contrast. Drake was attempting to shame Kendrick with unusual disclosures about him, whereas Kendrick was attempting to discredit Drake with characteristic revelations about him. That is things that people were already willing to accept about Drake. As a result, Kendrick had an easier job and greater credibility to carry it out. Worse, Drake's eerie and unpleasant posture on both Family Matters and The Heart Part 6 appeared to support Kendrick's unsavory characterization of him. Not that he's a pedophile, but that he's a creep.
And Baka got a weird case. Why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck 'em up.
Drake sounded creepy white knighting Whitney Alford in a serious conversation about domestic violence, while simultaneously instructing her to twerk to Rich Baby Daddy. He sounded creepy flirting with Whitney on a song supposedly intended to prove Drake is not a name you'd find on a no-sex offender list.
Hi, Whitney. Hi, Whitney. Won't you come over, girl, get high with me. Tell me about your insecurities, impurities, and shortcomings. Baby, I have been more coming and more coming, more life, more money, more success, more dreams.
It was all very airheaded, tone-deaf, and juvenile, which was consistent with Kendrick's portrayal of Drake. Drake's songs did raise some unpleasant concerns about Kendrick, but only by supporting all of the ugly things that listeners were already willing to believe about Drake.
I always keep my ear out for the hardest shit. I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for, the other two guys that I'm constantly, up against, which is like Cole and Kendrick.
Three-headed monster.
Yeah. So I have a lot of respect for those guys because they also continue to, stay true to what we started with.
On The Heart Part 6, Drake does some wordplay regarding Mother I Sober, the song from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, to mock Kendrick's determination to slander him as a pedophile. That's that one record where you say you got molested. Aw, fuck me, I just made the whole connection. This about to get so depressing. This is trauma from your own confessions.
That's that one record where you say you got molested. Oh, fuck me, I just made the whole connection. This about to get so depressing. This is trauma from your own confessions. This when your father...
Drake's misstep was heavily mocked for a multitude of reasons, but primarily because Kendrick openly mentions his mother being beaten on Mother I Sober. Kendrick's opening line, Dear Adonis, in Meet the Grams shattered any expectations of civility in the feud. Drake provided a torturous misunderstanding of a song that is not sophisticated nor difficult to understand. It's cringeworthy, but whatever. This is beef, not AP English. However, this segment of The Heart Part 6 inches highlighted a wider issue with Drake's attitude throughout the conflict. Drake didn't have a good grasp on Kendrick, not artistically, psychologically, or personally, and as a result, he frequently appeared to be assaulting a mirage. One of the worst examples of this is on Family Matters, where Drake once again twists the Michael Jackson versus Prince motif that these guys constantly using against one other. Michael was praying his features would change, so people believe that he's actually white. Top would make you do features for change, get on pop records, and rap for the whites.
Michael was praying his features would change, so people believe that he's actually white. Top will make you do features for change, get on pop records and rap for the whites, and wait.
Drake's best dig on Family Matters was, Kendrick just opened his mouth, someone goes hand him a Grammy right now.
Hey, Kendrick just opened his mouth, someone go hand him a Grammy right now. Where's your uncle?
It's a terrific bar, but it's also about someone who exaggerates Kendrick's importance. It's reasonably clever, but ultimately far too pissy and indirect for the knockout he's aiming for. That's Drake's approach to the feud in a nutshell.
The way I'm feeling, the same way I want you to walk out of here feeling tonight about yourself. I got my head up high, my back straight, I'm 10 toes down, and I know that no matter what, it's not a nigga on this earth that can ever me in my life. And that's how I want you to walk out of here tonight.
Kendrick, on the other hand, was continuously labeling Drake a deadbeat, a pedophile, and a colonizer in plain terms. Euphoria and Meet the Grams both capitalized on Drake's seeming vulnerabilities, with bars that resulted in an instantly recognizable caricature of Drake. As a result, his attacks resonated. Drake predicated so many of his own assaults on Kendrick on even shakier, half-assed characterizations. Always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed, you just acting like an activist, it's make-believe. And those attacks simply didn't resonate with listeners in reality.
Please, always rapping like you about to get the slaves freed. You just acting like an activist, it's make-believe.
In Meet the Grams, Kendrick accuses Drake of hiding a second child, a daughter. He addresses a verse to her, rapping, "It's not your fault that he's hiding another child." This is presented as Kendrick's own bombshell revelation about Drake, but the daughter is probably fake. This has caused outrage among stans who insist that Drake staged a miraculous comeback and won the war with The Heart Part 6. Kendrick's game plan was to humiliate Drake in a rap beef, inflaming his insecurities about his cultural belonging, public image, parenting, and authorship. He used humiliating tactics such as sitting idly while an opponent casually addresses their mom, "Not like us," BBL Drizzy, and dedicating half a song to establishing he's not a pedophile. Drake, on the other hand, was out of ideas once it was apparent that his reams of innuendo about Kendrick Lamar, Whitney Alford, and Dave Free on Family Matters wouldn't stick. He reserved his utmost savviness for his last, worst diss track, The Heart Part 6, which covered his retreat with a big bluff about double agents and false intel fed to Kendrick. This fiction seemed clever and halfway convincing until it became clear that it was all part of the plan. Drake wasted more energy on The Heart Part 6 than anyone else, digging for dirt and scrambling for quotables.
You know, the real core of this rap thing, you know, it's an unforgiving space. They're an unforgiving group. Nothing's ever really good enough, you know? Not for me anyway, you know, because I am the unconventional one.
Drake has not honored the basic rules of the hip-hop community, and the way he has handled his recent beef has taken him out of the good books of this community. What do you believe is the worst thing Drake did as a rapper? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel before you leave.